God, that has to hurt. This is going to have an impact on the rest of the game. Ethan can't really hold a gun or his knife anymore. He can't operate levers or climb ladders. I'm curious as to how they're going to change the gameplay to account for this injury. Or they just give him some magic juice and all is well again. So is Ethan still infected with the mold? That was the reason he was able to heal these insane injuries in the first game, right? And that was also why he was able to see Child Evelyn or be in this dream sequence with Jack and Zoe. Ethan and Mia were extracted by Blue Umbrella. Surely they had run tests on them and treated their infection. I mean, we learned in the intro sequence that the BSAA had access to Rose's medical records and Chris kept tabs on the Winters family. Maybe that's why Ethan had to undergo special forces training. Maybe he's treated in a similar way to Sherry Birkin by Chris or the BSAA or the military or Blue Umbrella or whoever's in charge right now. But then again, why did Chris just kill his wife and abduct his daughter? And why has Ethan been knocked out? Maybe because he was unstable? But then they could have detained him during one of the regular checkups he surely had to go through. Oh well, I'm sure the game will explain all this in a satisfying way. For now we have to escape Lady D's private rooms through the fireplace, which is as neat as it is stupid. Back in the hall there are now these 4 busts, where we have to place 4 masks to open the way forward. Classic Resident Evil stuff. There was a satisfying reason for this in the first game, but all games after that just included the silly puzzles without them making any sense, even when the game offered an explanation for it. Also, the Duke took up residence in a small safe room, so now I can buy and sell to my heart's content.
Duke, why are you here?
Where there's coin to be made. And have you found your daughter?
No.
If she is truly here, the lady of the castle would have kept little Rose in her private chambers, would she not?
Dimitrescu?
The very same. Why don't you take a look? Maybe you'll get lucky. And speaking of looking, care to make a purchase? What are you buying? Just something an old friend of mine used to say.
References. Ha ha. Right now most of the doors in the castle are still locked, either with a key or from the other side. Yeah, we already did that bit. We can explore this small area a bit and find some resources. We can enter the small wine storage, but can't do anything in here as of yet, other than reading about this exquisite wine that will of course be a significant puzzle piece. And then there's this door with a face that's missing an eye, and we have to insert the gemstone of a ring we found earlier to open it. The puzzle itself is fine, but this isn't a testing ground or an Illuminati tomb. There are people still living in this castle and using the rooms behind that door. So when we enter the door... I guess these bug ladies won't just let us roam around the castle. For now we can only flee. We can't harm that bitch, but she can really hurt us. There's 2 doors in this hallway. One is locked, but the other opens and we can stumble inside and are trapped, while the bugs are still swarming around us. Looking around we find a boarded up hole in the wall and break through it. The bugs are still approaching and the only escape is a multiple story drop into the unknown. And Ethan gets through without a scratch. We seem to be in the cellar below the castle. There we find a note from one of the staff who wasn't too comfortable with his employers. He talks about how the mates had been punished for small mistakes and that some of them had been taken into the basement from where they never returned. But at night he can hear fiendish screaming and wailing and he fears for his life. Well, if he leaves his notes just lying around everywhere, then I don't think there's much of him left to be saved. We have to crawl through another hole in the wall and catch a glimpse of Lady Dimitrescu. There are a few moments where we enter a room just to see Lady D leave. It kinda reminds me of a lot of children's comedy. I guess that shows us the mental age of the writers. Ooh shit. The cellar quickly evolves into more of a dungeon, fully equipped with medieval torture devices. And we learn that a lot of women had been abducted and experimented on down here. Most of these notes and letters and diaries are just lying around in the open and that's a bit weird. It makes sense in the village itself because the attacks just happened recently and there's chaos everywhere. So the last thing people would do is neatly filing their documents. But this dungeon is still maintained by Vampire Lady and she seems to be a woman of class. So why is everything so dirty and messy and why are her research notes just lying around in an empty cell? It's like the writers or designers didn't really understand the allure of the classic games and just tried to recreate the superficial elements of the series without much thought or care. But that can't be it, right? Yeah, right. After a while we hear hissing and shrieking, and soon after that we see what happened to the maids and the abducted women. Their design reminds me a bit of Nazgul, so I guess I will refer to them by that name. The Nazguls aren't too fast, but they have this short shamble where they are hard to hit and can close the distance to the player pretty efficiently. And it's not that easy to evade them in this cramped up area. They are armed with swords and sickles or even an axe, and even when they lose their weapon, their grab attack is still pretty dangerous. But Ethan has this incredible move where he doesn't take that much damage, and all he has to do is put his fucking hands up. This was dumb and misguided in the previous game. And by that I mean RE7, not ReMake 2 or 3. But here the enemies have swords or axes, or at least really sharp and surely dirty claws. How would you receive less damage from a sword? By letting it cut you in the fucking arm. As I just said, the system is already misguided. You shouldn't engage these monsters with a defensive maneuver. You should try to avoid them. I know that Devil May Cry was originally planned to be Resident Evil 4, but there's a reason why that became its own franchise. And later there will be these massive beasts attacking you with giant hammers or enormous fangs, and you can just block them with the tiny twigs Ethan calls arms. It's also weird how you can block grab attacks. These should be the ones you're most vulnerable to while blocking. This is Capcom, for fuck's sake. They should know how fighting game logic works. So yeah, after we dealt with the creepy Nazgul women in the dungeon, we climb up a flight of stairs to come face to face with... I really don't know her name. There are a few opportunities to learn the names of the three daughters, Bella, Cassandra and Daniela, and I believe that during their introduction they each had at least a bit of a distinct personality, but now they are just interchangeable mini-bosses. It's hard to really care for any of them when you don't really know who it was you just killed. Speaking of killing someone, we can't do that here. It seems the bug ladies are invincible or at least immune to whatever weapon Ethan carries around. Maybe some bug repellent would help, but we don't have that right now. So we flee again, only to get caught a few rooms later by Bella. And yeah, I had to read it up. She throws Ethan to the ground and in his panic he shoots her, without effect. The bullets pass right through her and hit the window behind her. And suddenly a cold wind blows through the window and Bella cries out in pain. This is like a twist on the vampire myth. Instead of sunlight, they fear the cold, because they're made of insects. This could have been a neat little puzzle. One of the notes could have told us about them irrationally fearing the cold, and then maybe the game leads us into a small room with a lot of windows, and gives us a reason to destroy them. Maybe have some ammunition outside one of the windows, or maybe have a crack in the wall where we see cold air going in, and have Bella carefully step around it. Yeah, but no. The game shows you the vampire's weakness and triggers it in a cutscene. And you only get to do the shooty bang bang part. My remark about the note informing us about the vampire's fear of the cold was actually something that did happen. You can find a note about it before the fight and then another one after the fight that explains it a bit more, in case you still haven't caught on. But instead of having the player use that knowledge and test our puzzle solving skills and awareness, the game only wants to test our shooting and dodging skills. Yeah, I see this game going strong in the direction of RE5 and 6. The next one might as well be a military shooter with zombies. As if there aren't enough of those yet. So as long as she's standing in this gust of wind, our bullets can hurt her, and we can dispatch of her relatively easy. Soon enough she'll crystallize and break apart and we can collect her fucking torso as a prize. The room leads into the kitchen where we find an expensive looking bottle of wine in a bowl filled with wine, I hope. The wine is called Sanguis Virginis, which translates to virgin blood, of course. And before we circle back around to the main hall, we find a lockpick, so I guess we are now the master of unlocking. Anyone? Come on, this game is full of references, I get to have this one. There's a locked drawer right beside it, so we can try out our new ability and get a bit of treasure. That's nice. With our fancy bottle we want to get back to the wine storage and set it into this small podium. The wall opens and gives access to a small back room, where we find a key for the courtyard. Now this begins to feel like Resident Evil. Carrying random items around, finding keys in ludicrous places for doors that shouldn't even be locked. I feel right at home with this. With our new key we get back down and open the door to the courtyard, and from here we can enter the east wing of the castle. The game might appear quite open-ended and non-linear, but most of the time we are on a straight path. The levels are interconnected, and after finishing an area we can open up a shortcut to some kind of hub. But for the most part, we have to do things in a specific order, which isn't a bad thing, and you might not even notice it on your first playthrough because the game tries very hard to appear non-linear, and there are a few optional areas and the like, but on subsequent playthroughs you will notice how on rails the whole experience is. For now, we enter the east wing and catch another glimpse of Lady D walking up the stairs. It's ludicrous how she doesn't notice us, but not ludicrous enough, as we'll soon find out. We can charge after her, but we're not able to catch up because Vampire Lady doesn't respect the walls of her castle and just passes right through them. She also has the mark of a true choleric because she locks herself in a tiny bathroom and screams when you pass by. Because it seems she learned about Ethan killing one of her daughters. She isn't angry enough to go after the guy smashing the windows right outside though. After we are done thrashing the place, we find this strange rotunda furnished with 4 statues and a pool of blood. We have to solve a little puzzle by rotating the statues around. It's a tiny bit unintuitive, but it's not too bad. And according to the little flavor text, this isn't really blood, but just more wine. So all's well. After completing the puzzle, all the wine gets pumped out the little pool and a stairwell appears, which takes us down, down, down into another wine cellar. Oh, and there's a little goat. Lady D and her daughters might have a drinking problem, and they don't even store their wine correctly. I mean, come on, how could they spill this much wine? It's everywhere, and this is a pretty big room. I don't think there's enough wine stored here to even make such a mess. Well, it is a neat little set piece. The disfigured maids emerge from below the wine's surface, so you're never quite sure when and where they'll attack. It doesn't get too hard or anything, because they never emerge behind you. But it was a bit spooky the first time around. And in case you're wondering about the weapons I use, so OBS really didn't like to record this game. I had similar problems with previous RE games, and maybe it has to do with the RE engine, but I always found a workaround. Not this time. The game ran smoothly on my system, but when I watched over the footage, it was all choppy and stuttering and unusable. So I recorded another playthrough with a different capturing software. It's a New Game Plus on hardcore, so I kept all my stuff from the previous playthrough, but in turn the enemies are a bit stronger, so it's fair, I guess. After we dealt with the maids in the blood cellar, we take a little service elevator back up. There we have to climb over the balcony to get another cutscene with the long lady, where Ethan peeks through the window like some creep. And that's what I meant earlier when I said that it's ludicrous she doesn't spot Ethan. How can she not see us there? Oh well, she speaks to Mother Miranda on the phone and gets a teensy bit pissed, and then just leaves.
Mother Miranda, I regret to inform you that Ethan Winters has escaped that fool Heisenberg. Because he is in my castle and has already proven too much for my daughters to handle. When I find him... No, Mother Miranda. Yes, of course, I understand the importance of the ceremony. I won't let you down. To hell with the ceremony! That man will pay for what he's done.
We can explore this little room, but nothing more, since both doors are locked and Ethan refuses to go back the way he came from. So if you didn't save before climbing over the balcony, tough luck. There's not much to find in Tall Lady's makeup room. There's a huge dress and a small crib, so that means Rose was here before?
Where are you?
Maybe she's still somewhere in the castle? There's also a key hanging on the wall. Humongous Lady hung it there before she answered the phone, but I missed it on my first run and was a bit confused. It's all good now. With the key we can unlock the door and... oh shit.
Oh shit.
I already said that, Ethan.
All this for a child who isn't even here.
What the hell do...
You ungrateful, selfish wretch! You come into my house! You lay your filthy man-hands on my daughters! And now you even try to steal my property! How dare you! Rest while you can! Because I will hunt you, and I will break you!
Go ahead, do your worst.
So she bashed Ethan's head so hard against the floor he broke through and fell down multiple stories. Again. Just to stand right up and make a sad attempt at a quip. Damn, dude is invincible. And now we have to navigate through yet another cellar. And it really looks like a boss arena this time. Some of the passageways are barred, so this is like some kind of labyrinth. And there's a closed gate that can be opened with a lever. So we do just that. Or we try. God damn it, lady, that was rude. I need that hand. Oh, and she wants to kill Ethan so much that she just throws him to the ground and gives him a chance to fight back. But there's a neat little detail in that scene. A guy named Mauler found out that Lady D doesn't just spawn into the cutscene, but actually approaches Ethan. You can try this for yourself. Just plant some mines around the entrance, and she will trigger them when she steps close. The fight itself isn't really a fight, because there's no way to hurt Miss Giant here. We have to evade her attacks and get back to the lever. There we can pick up our hand and wait an excruciatingly long time for the gate to open. Yeah, no, waiting isn't an option if we don't want to be cut into ribbons. It also doesn't help that Vampire Lady can just cut through the metal bars. So that's something to keep in mind when you try to kite her. As soon as the gate is open, we just run for it and reached a huge ornamental elevator. Where we find the first of the 4 masks. What a happy coincidence. We ride the elevator up to the surface as Lady D shouts after us. She doesn't appear too happy.
Running will get you nowhere!
Oh, and Ethan repairs his hand with the magic juice. It's funny how he doesn't even question his superpowers at least a little bit.
Good. Man, screw this castle.
And now the courtyard is full of Nazgul. They're not hard to avoid, but it can be a bit of a pain when we are being followed. With our new key we can open a few of the doors in the castle and can even decide in which order we want to proceed. We can look for the iron insignia key first, which we need to open the rest of the doors in the castle as well as a bunch of the doors in the village, or go after the daughters first. For now, we step into the east wing. It's nice and cozy in here and we find a few items, as well as some Nazgul. Oh, and a beautiful marble. There's also a diary that explains how the daughters had been created by Lady D. It tries to appear like some science stuff, but it still sounds like magic. These women were devoured by flies, and then the flies kinda formed a collective and held the consciousness of the women, and so they were reborn as bug ladies. Magic, gotcha. We also find a piano where Ethan quite marvelously plays this song, even with the missing fingers. And for his great talent he is awarded the Iron Insignia Key. And now we can visit every nook and cranny of this castle. So let's get back out here and take a look back up the stairs and... oh shit.
Wait long.
Yeah, that's what I meant with someone following us. Lady D operates similar to Jack Baker or Mr. X, in that she will roam the castle halls in search of us. But her fear factor doesn't compare to either of them. She's too regal and has too much of a personality, so she doesn't emit the feeling of dread when trapped by a psychic murderer, or the feeling of helplessness in the face of a cold, unfeeling death machine out to get you. For now, let's just get back to the Duke to sell our treasure and save the game.
It's a pleasure to see you safe. How were things?
No sign of Rose.
I'm so sorry it turned out that way. Well, you'll find your way to her once you're out of this castle. Do you have need of anything for the road ahead?
Beside him is an artfully crafted marble labyrinth that we can try to solve, now that we have found the corresponding marble. And we get rewarded with a pretty valuable treasure. We can use all this money to upgrade our weapons, but maybe we shouldn't invest too much into this right now. The game will replace our weapons with better ones pretty soon, and it would be a shame to waste all our money on useless upgrades. After a moment of reprieve, we make our way back up the stairs to the corridor behind the weird face door. There's still a door we couldn't open before, but now that we have all the keys, we can just ignore the bug lady attacking us and open the door. Wait for the key to slowly turn around and get inside. Here we find another mask, but as soon as Ethan takes it, the entrance gets locked with iron bars. But don't worry, yet another lucky fireplace leads us to a hidden room, where we are immediately attacked by the hallway bug lady. And this room doesn't have windows to shoot, so we have to move a shelf and blow a hole in the wall to be able to attack her. She doesn't offer much more resistance than her sister, so this shouldn't be too hard.
Curse you! No!
After we killed her, we can take the deer skull from the wall and place it into the statue. Or not. Ha! The game tries to be clever. We can't just use the whole plug. We have to remove the back so that it fits in the indentations. So now we have 2 of the 4 masks and killed 2 of the 4 baddies. We make good progress. So let's make a detour and get some treasure from the dungeon. There are a few new Nazguls in here, but they aren't too much of a hurdle, and soon enough we find another iron insignia door. And behind that, another unintuitive puzzle. So we have to light those 2 bolts, and to do that we have to blow up the wall and shove one of the bolts into a standing torch. We had to do this earlier, and there it was enough to nudge the bolts toward the flame, but this doesn't work here. Here we have to shoot the things to have them swing wide enough to catch fire. We get ammunition in here, so I guess the game kinda gives us a hint. So after we light all the fires, we can open a sarcophagus and find a creepy eye that we can combine with a ring to sell for lots of money. Back to work. In the west wing, where we played the piano, we can now open a door to the library, where we have to fight against the last of the 3 daughters. We can't blow up the walls and there are no windows, but there is a lever to open the whole cupola above us.
Ow! So mean!
The bug brain couldn't have chosen a worse place to fight us. The roof only stays open for a short amount of time, but we can reopen it instantly. So just stay close to the lever and blow this bitch to Kingdom Come. She tries to hide behind the bookshelves, but it isn't of much use.
What are you doing? A dream! This is a dream! Why? Why would you do this? I don't want to die.
It's a bit sad. Now there's not much left to do in this castle. Oh well. In the next room we find the 3rd mask and unlock a shortcut that we won't ever use. Instead we proceed to the atelier, where we have to solve another little puzzle. There are 5 bells in this room that we need to find and ring by slashing or shooting at them. 3 of them are pretty easy to see. 1 is a bit harder to spot, and the last one had me chuckle a bit, because it's not actually in the room, but outside in the bell tower. Activating all the bells gives us access to the roof and... oh, hello Mr. Goat. Here we learn about a mystical, legendary dagger that was used to kill all kinds of demons. And since the game is as subtle as a shotgun to the face, I'm sure we'll find this magical dagger sooner or later. We also find a sniper rifle, and not a moment too soon. Because as soon as we climb out a window onto the roof, these flying Cthulhu cultists swoop down on us. They can't take much of a beating, but their crosshair dodging is worse than anyone else's. Aside from that, the roof is a pretty cool area. There's not much to do here, but it looks beautiful and I like the architecture of this place. It kinda reminds me of Bloodborne. We can use this random rope to slide down to the other side and find the last of the 4 masks. And from here, take the elevator down to the castle entrance. Good work. Now we just have to get back to the hall and place all the masks and the statues, and of course the long woman is right in our way. In a place where we can't just maneuver around her. Lucky for Ethan, she really doesn't want to hurt him that much. So he has time to run past her after she goes through the door. Now let's just insert all the masks and get the hell out of here. Can this door open any slower? Come on! This door only leads to a tower with a kind of chapel inside and another sarcophagus. And inside is a skeleton. Ooh, and a cool looking dagger. Maybe even the dagger we just read about. This will come in handy. Fun fact, if you go back to the castle after opening the sarcophagus, Lady D is just gone and won't appear again. Maybe she's finally bored with us. So if there's anything left to do or to find in the castle, now's the best time to get it. But as soon as you take the dagger...
You've ruined everything!
Haha, not so invincible now, bitch! Oh no, my dagger! Well, so much for my magical weapon. I really got a lot out of it. Well, Lady D isn't too happy about me stabbing her and she turns into a huge, even bigger monster. As is Resident Evil tradition. We have to fight her on top of the tower, and it's okay. She can charge at us and there's not much room to maneuver, so we have to constantly circle around the central pillar while trying to get some shots in. Every so often she flies into the distance and attacks with swarms of insects. So I didn't know this on my first playthrough, but you can hide from the insects in these alcoves, for whatever reason. They just don't try to get you in there. But it seems inflicting enough damage on her while she's flying immediately stops the insect attack, so that's what I did. The first time. This time I hid like a coward. After we shot her enough time, she gets really angry and breaks through the tower wall. We have to climb the stairs to enter the second phase of the fight. And I don't know if there's an actual strategy for this. I just tried to dodge her attacks, circle around her and blast her stupid face with everything I got. And it worked. The floor gives way and she plunges to her demise, but not without taking us with her. But indestructible and also incredibly lucky Ethan lands on her wings and so survives the fall unscathed. And with that, we completed Castle Dimitrescu and killed the most anticipated and beloved antagonist like 2 hours into the game. Before we leave the castle behind us for good, we collect Lon Lady's remains and also a dirty jar filled with some yellow liquid. Great. So aside from killing one of the major bad guys, this was pretty pointless. We still haven't got a clue where to find our daughter. Well, maybe someone else in the village can help us. We caused quite a ruckus right now, so I'm sure someone took notice. The only way forward leads through this tunnel, where we find some fish. Oh yeah, just like in Resident Evil 4. Yeah. When we progress further, we can hear chanting in a familiar voice. Oh god, it's the hag again. And she still spouts stupid nonsense that's supposed to sound wise, but I guess she's just crazy.
How can a man be almost dead? It's only a riddle if you don't know the answer.
And then Ethan notices the umbrella symbol on the wall. So why is this here? Is this another umbrella research site? Did they experiment with werewolves and vampires? The lore gets sillier with every subsequent game. The crone has quietly pissed off, but left behind a key that we take with us. Of course, it's Resident Evil. After we climb some stairs and open another gate, we emerge at a pretty cool location.
Is this?
There's these huge stone statues that represent the 4 founders of this area. And the 4 bad guys we met earlier seem to be their descendants or something like that. We find a bridge and some ruins and have to dispatch of a few wolf people, not much of a challenge. Oh, hey Mr. Goat! And after that we arrive at another ritual site. And find the Duke! And Ethan is not too happy to see him.
There you are. I had a feeling you would pop up here.
It was all worthless.
Is that so? I assume you've picked up something of value.
Not sure if it's of value, but...
Why, you have your daughter right in your own hands.
What are you saying?
Take a closer look. That flask seems to contain her head.
Oh damn, that was a huge revelation. And also fucking stupid. So okay, Ethan's baby has been torn apart and now her head is in this flask. Seems a bit small, but what do I know?
This is impossible! This just can't be!
Your daughter's essence is still intact. Her powers are truly unique.
Who could even do this?
She can be saved, you know.
Saved? From this? Are you insane?
And I'm even able to piece her back together. I don't think a magical baby really raises the stakes. It kinda destroys all the tension. Now I don't have to worry about my daughter because I can just repair her later. This game really should have just embraced all this magical and mystical stuff and should have been a DMC or Castlevania spin-off.
But do you have any better options? Your choice. The customer is always right. After all.
You'll pay if I find out this is a lie. Fucking Joker.
Also, right after Ethan gets really distraught and threatens the Duke, we can just shop away. This would have been a perfect moment to leave the shop inaccessible. The game tried to create drama and just ruined it. Ethan is fucking irate right now, but as soon as the cutscene ends, the shopping prompt appears. So now we have to get to the house with the red chimney. And on the way we can collect some treasures and also a new handgun. There are some funny jumpscare moments, one is in a puzzle and the other happens thanks to a pig. To reach the house with the red chimney, we have to take a little detour and pass a locked gate that we can open with the iron insignia key. There are some lichens on the way and... oh, no. I'm not gonna play around with this guy. He gets a pipe bomb to the face. And a few shots to the head with my sniper rifle. That ought to do it. We have to get into the house through the roof and dispose of another lichen. Just to see that residents of this home are already evil. I mean, dead. We do find a note though, telling us of a special key that needs to be combined from different parts to open all the gates. Also, there's a wall of exposition in there. So Mother Miranda performed some ritual to turn Rose into a crystal and divide her into 4 parts to hand to her lords. That's it. That's why I had to come here. That's why this house is special. It was just here to provide exposition in the least immersive way and to hand me a key I only need because the game made it overly complicated to begin with. The Duke could have told Ethan all this and the next locked gate didn't need to require a special key. I believe there was supposed to be more of a story in here, maybe a major character, maybe one of the survivors who got unceremoniously killed in a single scene. There's also that rumor that Ada Wong was planned to be in the game. Maybe she was supposed to be here before her role was cut from the game. When we return to the Duke, he pretty much elaborates on what we already know, as if he couldn't have done so before. He marks all the locations of the remaining lords on our map, as well as undiscovered treasure and, let's call it, hunting spots. Because as of now, the Duke offers another service. If we bring him the right ingredients, he cooks a meal for us that permanently raises Ethan's stats. That's what the fish from earlier was for. So now, with the newfound knowledge and more determination than ever, we go forth and beat these lords into submission. We know all their locations, so it's just a matter of who to visit first and nah, I'm just fucking with you. Aside from roaming around the village a bit in between the chapters and searching for treasure, the game is completely linear. We had a bit of non-linearity in the castle and that's it. As I said, the game appears open and non-linear, but the illusion soon fades. And speaking of illusions, let's head to the next lord, the doll maker, Donna Beneviento.